Welcome to Wealth Hustle 247 podcast, your trusted guide to financial literacy, business innovation, and entrepreneurial success. Learn how to grow your wealth, make informed decisions, and turn your ideas into profitable ventures.
Right now, someone with just a laptop is earning more money this month than many people working a full-time job for an entire year, and the reason is simple: they have a high-income skill. In this episode, I'm going to show you the exact skills that can pay far more than a traditional job.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are talking directly to you, the learner.
That's right.
And I want you to imagine for a second that you followed all the traditional rules of the playbook. You went to school, you secured the degree, and you landed what society universally agrees is a safe, secure job.
The dream, right?
Exactly. But month after month, despite clocking your 40 hours, or let's be real, probably 50 or 60 hours, you feel like you're sprinting on a treadmill just to keep up with the baseline cost of living.
It's exhausting.
It really is. Your salary stays flat, but the price of groceries, rent, just basic survival keeps climbing relentlessly. Why is it that the ultimate piece of conventional wisdom we were all handed in, just get a safe job, is suddenly becoming financially dangerous?
It's a fundamental shift in how the world works now.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our mission today is to completely shift how you view your earning potential. We are looking at a highly practical wealth blueprint titled High Income Skills That Pay More Than a Job.
And we should clarify, this isn't just theoretical fluff drafted in some ivory tower.
Right.
The source material we're working from today was written by a veteran with over 40 years of hard-fought business experience across Nigeria, Africa, Europe, and North America.
That global perspective is huge.
It's exactly what makes this blueprint so compelling. The mission for our analysis today is to break down the stark, fundamental difference between a job and a skill. We are going to explore this shifting modern economy and detail specific, actionable skills that are currently out-earning traditional management roles.
Because when you look at the author's 4 decades of observation, one pattern remains absolute, right?
Jobs pay for survival, but
Yes.
skills build wealth.
Survival versus wealth. That is a heavy premise.
It is, but think about it. When someone relies solely on a job, they get a predictable income, which is comfortable,
Sure.
but they also get a completely capped upside. They're entirely dependent on one payer, and their income is artificially restricted by the company's internal structure.
Right. It doesn't really seem to matter if you do the work of 3 people. You can only earn what the HR budget dictates for your specific title.
Exactly.
But I have to ask, how much of this is just the nature of employment and how much is a recent economic shift?
What's fascinating here is how the economic landscape has entirely shifted beneath our feet, making that traditional job structure increasingly fragile.
Fragile in what way?
Well, we are now living squarely in what the author calls the skill economy. The source points to 3 massive macroeconomic forces that fundamentally changed the game.
Okay, let's lay this out.
First, the internet. It effectively eliminated location barriers for knowledge workers.
Right. You can work for anyone, anywhere.
Exactly. Second, automation, which drastically reduced the premium on routine, repetitive jobs. And third, global competition, which has put an immense downward pressure on standard, localized salaries.
And the author provides some very sobering context for this, especially regarding volatile economies like Nigeria and other parts of Africa.
Yes, the local context makes this urgent.
When inflation is rising substantially faster than a standard annual salary bump, and the local currency is actively devaluing against the dollar, relying on a single localized salary isn't just frustrating.
No, the author argues it's reckless.
Reckless, because companies restructure, layoffs happen literally overnight.
Right.
That is why the source emphasizes that high-income skills are not just cute little side hustles. The phrase used is portable economic weapons.
I love that. That phrase is a perfect encapsulation. It means you carry your financial security in your mind, not in an employment contract stored in some HR filing cabinet.
So how does the blueprint actually define a high-income skill then?
A high-income skill is defined by a few key traits. It is highly in demand. It can be monetized independently of a traditional employer. It is entirely results-driven. It is scalable. And crucially,
Usually.
it does not rely solely on a piece of paper or a university certification. The market pays for the result you deliver, not the effort you exert or the pedigree you hold.
Which brings us to a massive inversion of how we usually think about status and wealth. Let's look at what the market is actually rewarding right now, because it's wild.
It really is.
Today, a skilled copywriter working from their laptop on a beach can legitimately earn more than a traditional branch manager at a major bank.
Yeah.
A specialist who runs paid digital ads can out-earn a senior civil servant who has been climbing the bureaucratic ladder for 20 years. And a software developer can live locally, spending in Naira while earning their income entirely in US dollars.
That geographic arbitrage is huge.
The old rule was that corporate titles dictated wealth. But I'm looking at this and wondering, why does the market allow this inversion? Why are businesses willing to pay a freelancer more than their own senior management?
It comes down to what businesses fundamentally value to survive.
Yeah.
Jobs pay for your time and your presence. High-income skills pay for outcomes, for direct revenue impact, and for strategic thinking. I want you, the listener, to think about this. What stands out to you about the difference between being paid for your time versus being paid for a specific result?
It's a totally different mindset.
Exactly. If a company caps a manager's salary at, say, 600,000 Naira monthly, but a skilled freelancer comes in and their specific targeted work generates 20 million Naira in new revenue that quarter,
Then that freelancer's value to the company is exponentially higher than the salaried manager.
yes, employees get paid first out of the operating budget, but the owners and the rainmakers, the people who actually bring the money into the building, they get paid the most. High-income skills turn you into a rainmaker.
Okay, becoming a rainmaker sounds great in theory, but I want to push back a little here.
Go ahead.
Not everyone has a natural talent for being the loudest person in the room or aggressively pushing products. Does the author address how someone can practically step into these roles?
I absolutely do.
Let's get into the 12 specific skills the author lays out. They group them into categories, starting with what we can call the revenue generators. Sitting right at the top is sales.
The classic.
The source calls sales the king of all skills, noting that if you can sell, you will never be broke. But is this just aggressive cold calling?
Not at all, and that's a crucial misconception we need to clear up. The author explicitly states that modern high-income sales is not begging, and it's not high-pressure manipulation.
What is it?
It is problem-solving through persuasion. We are talking about roles like closing high-ticket coaching programs, navigating complex corporate B2B sales, real estate, or enterprise tech solutions.
So it's more consultative.
Exactly. In these arenas, you act more like a diagnostician, and the earning potential reflects that value. Commission-based closers can earn anywhere from 500,000 to 5 million Naira monthly, locally. Globally, top B2B sales reps are consistently pulling in $5,000 to $20,000 a month. Why? Because they are the ultimate revenue generators, and businesses will always happily hand over a percentage of the new wealth you create for them.
Right. Alongside sales in that revenue generation category is digital marketing and copywriting. We know every business needs a steady flow of customers.
They dry up without it.
Exactly. Digital marketing, whether that's running paid ad campaigns, building complex sales funnels, or executing email marketing strategies, means you control that flow. The math the author provides is just striking.
That's right.
If you manage ads for just 5 businesses on a retainer of 200,000 Naira each, that's $1 million Naira a month. Internationally, clients routinely pay $1,000 to $3,000 per account per month.
And remember, they aren't paying for the time it takes to click buttons in an ad manager.
Right, they are paying for the customer acquisition.
Exactly. And copywriting is the invisible engine driving all of those ads. The source offers a brilliant mathematical perspective on why copywriting commands such a premium.
Break that down for us.
Consider a sales funnel that currently converts at 2%. If a skilled copywriter comes in, rewrites the messaging, and bumps that conversion rate up to 4%.
They just doubled the sales.
They haven't just doubled the conversion rate. They have literally doubled the company's revenue from that product without the company spending an extra dime on advertising.
That is massive leverage.
Because of that immense leverage, top copywriters can command 500,000 to 3 million Naira per project, or $3,000 to $15,000 per funnel internationally. The market dictates that the words themselves are creating the wealth.
So if sales and copywriting are how you get the customers in the door, what happens next? You need the infrastructure to actually hold them and deliver value.
Which brings us to the next category.
Right, the builders.
Yeah.
The tech and content engines. We are looking at software development, AI integration, and video editing.
A very lucrative space.
The author refers to content as the new oil, but they also make a point about how tech skills essentially create borderless income engines. A senior developer based in Nigeria isn't restricted by the local economy.
Not at all.
They can make 800,000 to 3 million naira monthly locally, or freelance internationally for $30 to $100 an hour. That geo arbitrage is powerful.
It is the ultimate hedge against local currency devaluation. And going back to that new oil analogy for content, it's highly accurate because crude oil is virtually useless until it is refined.
That makes a lot of sense.
In today's economy, attention is the foundational currency. Platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram are where consumer attention lives. Video editors are the technicians refining that raw, unstructured content into highly engaging, valuable assets that capture market share.
And brands pay big money for that.
Absolutely. A 60-second vertical video can drive tens of thousands of dollars in sales for a brand. That is why skilled editors are earning $1,000 to $4,000 monthly internationally. Businesses absolutely depend on that refined asset to stay relevant.
Moving beyond the builders, we transition into the strategists and advisors. This includes public speaking and communication, financial consulting, and high-level negotiation. Let's pause on negotiation for a second.
Sure.
The source calls this an invisible income multiplier. But how does someone just step in and take a cut? Are they just arguing over contracts?
It's far more strategic than just haggling. Procurement consultants and deal negotiators specialize in identifying inefficiencies and leveraging terms.
Give me an example.
They might step into a massive supply chain deal and restructure the logistics contracts, ultimately saving a large corporation $3 million a year. Their fee isn't an hourly rate, it's simply a percentage of the savings they generated.
So it's purely performance-based value.
Exactly. You don't need to code a product or manage a massive team. You just need to deeply understand human psychology, leverage, and how to structure a mutually beneficial deal.
And what about financial consulting? In a booming economy, sure, everyone wants to invest. But in the volatile economies, the author focuses on how does this play out?
In unstable economies, skills like tax strategy, cash flow management, and investment structuring become survival mechanisms for businesses.
Survival mechanisms.
Yes. If you possess the clarity to navigate complex tax codes or restructure a company's debt so they don't go under during a currency crisis, your advice is invaluable.
I can see why.
Businesses will pay retainers ranging from 300,000 to 2 million naira monthly just to have that strategic oversight. It's a high-income skill because the cost of bad financial strategy is total ruin.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. When we look at brand strategy and systems or operations management, I have to admit, I've always thought of branding as just graphic design. You know, paying an agency a fee to make a sleek logo and pick some nice colors. Does the author view it differently?
Entirely differently. The author redefines branding as perception engineering.
Perception engineering. I like that.
It has very little to do with the logo and everything to do with market positioning. A brand strategist helps a company reposition its core identity from being a commoditized utility to a premium necessity.
So changing how people feel about buying it.
Right. If you can change the market's perception of a product, you give that company the power to raise their prices by 30% without losing customers. That level of strategic repositioning commands engagements of 1 million to 10 million naira. You are engineering the perception that directly allows for increased profit margins.
That makes total sense. And on the operations side, the text points out that operations consultants often earn more than the actual CEOs in small firms. At first glance, that sounds absurd. Why would the person building the spreadsheets make more than the visionary founder?
Because a visionary CEO with a great idea is completely paralyzed without an operator who can actually deliver the product efficiently.
The ideas are cheap without execution.
Exactly. Operations management involves creating standard operating procedures, designing automated workflows, and ruthlessly reducing waste. If a business is scaling too fast, it will collapse under its own weight without structure.
So they build the infrastructure.
The operations expert builds the tracks while the train is moving. They become indispensable, and their compensation reflects that they are the glue holding the revenue together.
Rounding out these 12 skills, we have data analysis and high-ticket coaching. To give data analysis some real-world context, we're not just talking about entering numbers into a ledger.
Definitely not.
We are talking about using tools like SQL or Power BI to take a massive, confusing spreadsheet of raw company data and instantly turning it into a visual dashboard that shows the executive team exactly where they are bleeding money or exactly which product line is most profitable. It turns noise into signal.
Exactly. It drives winning, mathematically sound decisions, which is why global demand for data analysts is exploding.
And then finally, we have high-ticket coaching.
This is fascinating because it's essentially experience monetized. You don't necessarily have to learn a brand new technical skill like Python or video editing if you already possess a decade of hard-earned experience in corporate HR, logistics, or leadership.
Right. If you have proven results and clear systems from your career, you can package that knowledge into masterminds or advisory retainers. Structured knowledge equals income.
Exactly.
The author notes clients will pay anywhere from 500,000 to 5 million naira for condensed wisdom that saves them years of trial and error. So we've covered this massive landscape of lucrative skills. But for the listener sitting here right now, the immediate question is, how do I actually acquire one of these without drowning in information overload?
The author anticipates that exact paralysis and provides a highly pragmatic 5-step roadmap.
Let's walk through it.
Step 1 is the most critical. Pick one skill. In a world of infinite options, depth beats distraction. You cannot master copywriting, data analysis, and software development simultaneously.
Pick a lane and stay in it.
Exactly. Step 2 is to study structured knowledge. This means bypassing the endless loop of random, disconnected YouTube tutorials and investing in structured courses, seeking mentorship, and analyzing deep-dive case studies.
Step 3 is where I think a lot of people might hesitate. The author suggests practicing for free initially. Why would someone building a high-income skill give their labor away? Offer it to small businesses, your local church, friends' brands, or startups. It feels counterintuitive to the whole get paid what you're worth mantra.
It does feel counterintuitive, but the strategy is sound. You aren't working for free out of charity. You are doing it to aggressively build proof.
Ah, proof of competence.
Which leads directly into step 4, building a portfolio. As the text wisely notes, in the skill economy, results sell infinitely better than certificates. A potential client does not care where you took your digital marketing course if you can open your laptop and prove that you doubled a local startup's revenue last month.
The free work buys you the undeniable case study.
Yes. Finally, step 5, raise your prices gradually. You underprice slightly to enter the market and remove friction, and then you systematically increase your fees as your results and your confidence improve.
I see. The proof becomes your leverage for pricing.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author outlines a framework they call the income ladder. This is the natural, sustainable progression of wealth building through skills.
How does the ladder work?
You don't jump straight to being an enterprise consultant. You start by learning the skill. Then you freelance to build a portfolio. Next, you specialize in a very specific niche, say, copywriting just for healthcare software companies.
Right, getting highly specialized.
As demand outpaces your time, you build an agency. Then you create systems, hire junior technicians to handle the fulfillment, and eventually you ascend to high-level consulting where you only advise. The progression is methodical. Skill to service to system to scale.
I'm glad you mapped that out, because before anyone runs into their boss's office today to dramatically quit their job and start climbing this ladder, the author drops a massive reality check.
A very necessary one.
The actual formula for financial security during this transition is job plus skill. They explicitly warn, do not quit your job immediately. Keep the salary for baseline stability. Build your high-income skill in the evenings and weekends.
That is so important.
You only execute the transition when the income from your independent skill consistently exceeds your corporate salary. That approach completely removes the desperate, anxious energy from your new venture.
It is a profoundly responsible approach. Desperation is terrible for negotiation, and if you quit prematurely, you will take bad clients at low rates just to survive.
Which defeats the whole purpose.
Exactly. This measured transition leads us directly to the author's ultimate wealth equation. It goes like this: high-income skill plus multiple clients plus strong pricing plus investment discipline equals financial freedom.
Notice that last pillar, investment discipline.
Yes, the author is adamant that high income alone is not wealth. If you generate $20,000 a month with your new tech skills, but you inflate your lifestyle and spend $20,000 a month, you are still fundamentally broke.
You just happen to live in a much nicer house.
Precisely. You must convert the raw cash generated by your skills into tangible, appreciating assets like real estate, index funds, or equity in businesses. Skills create cash, but assets create freedom.
So what does this all mean? When we zoom out and look at the 40 years of global business experience poured into this blueprint, the core message is unshakable.
It really is.
Corporate titles fade. Companies inevitably restructure or close. Governments change policies, and fiat currencies devalue. But a high-income skill stays with you permanently.
They're yours to keep.
A person armed with these specific portable economic weapons cannot be easily replaced by a cheaper entry-level worker. They cannot be easily oppressed by a toxic boss or a rigid corporate structure because they inherently have options. And most importantly, they are insulated against being permanently broke.
The author leaves us with a final piece of foundational wisdom that beautifully summarizes this entire analysis. If you are young, build skills. If you are mid-career, upgrade skills. If you are older, monetize experience.
That covers everyone.
It does. The future belongs to skilled value creators. Jobs create workers. Skills create wealth builders. It is ultimately a fundamental choice about how you want to interact with the global economy as a dependent or as a creator.
It really is a choice between relying on a rigid system that is mathematically built to cap your growth, or betting on your own ability to generate measurable, undeniable value in the marketplace.
This raises an important question, though, something to really mull over and think critically about as we wrap up our time together.
Let's hear it.
The source highlighted earlier that automation reduced the value of routine, manual jobs, which pushed the workforce into this modern skill economy. But artificial intelligence is evolving at an absolutely breakneck pace.
It is moving so fast.
It is already beginning to automate the lower levels of some of the very high-income skills we just spent all this time discussing. Basic coding, entry-level data sorting, and formulaic copywriting are being handled by large language models.
That's a very real threat.
So as AI continues to eat up the floor of these high-income skills, what entirely new, uniquely human high-income skill will emerge in the next 5 years that we don't even have a name for yet?
Right.
How can you position yourself today to be the strategic architect who controls and leverages the AI rather than the technician who eventually gets replaced by it?
That is the exact paradox we all need to be solving for. You have to be the architect, not just the bricklayer. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the modern wealth blueprint. We hope this conversation sparked some serious ideas on how you can start building or upgrading your own portable economic weapons. Keep learning, keep adapting, and we will catch you on the next one.
That's it for today's episode of Wealth Hustle 247. Be sure to follow, like, comment, and share with others. Keep pushing toward your goals, and we'll see you in the next episode.